Welcome to the Doktor O'Kay show for WWE Raw from San Jose, California, where we just keep stretching out this feud, but we'll get to that in a few moments. So we'll start with just keep wondering if it's disrespectful or true, as Penta proves to be Gable's mystery opponent, and he finished off Gable with a sacrifice and then the Penta driver to get a win in his debut match. So we can't help but wonder what Rey Mysterio thinks after he was passed over for Penta, but Penta is the ones, as he wowed the crowd and had multiple "this is awesome" chants going, which I think it was safe to say mostly for him, because for Gable we simply say "you suck." And Penta had quite an arsenal of moves, including a sling blade, a tope con elo, a tornado DDT into a punishing Mexican destroyer, and I have no idea how Gable kicked out of that one, and I also have no clue how that move is allowed, but KO's pile drivers are not allowed. That seems like some pretty big hypocrisy to me by WWE officials, because that was pretty devastating, but yet somehow Gable was able to kick out, but he could not kick out following the sacrifice and Penta driver, so Penta goes to 1-0. And Gable is the twos, and he did pretty well considering he did not know who his opponent would be, and he did a good job with his technical skills early on before he landed a very rough German suplex on the apron and then slammed Penta's left knee into the ring post. And he then decided to work on that leg all throughout the match, very similarly to what he unsuccessfully did with Cody Rhodes a few weeks ago, and I guess it was unsuccessful yet again here. But later on, he also landed a Chaos Theory, but it was not quite clean, so his bridge was unsuccessful. And near the end of the match, he had a dragon screw and then put that into an ankle lock, and it just was not quite enough to get Penta to tap out. So that stops a 2-match winning streak, and obviously a step up in competition going from the Alpha Academy to Penta, which of course a lot of that is Gable's fault for being a terrible teacher. So nonetheless, he goes to 0-1 in 2025. I have to admit that I wasn't quite sure that the first "this is awesome" chant was deserved, but by the time we got to the second one, it absolutely was. So this is indeed how you lucha, brother. So we will definitely give this debut a double okay. Up second, we just keep hitting the same beats as Sheamus beats Kaiser for a third straight time after avoiding a jump kick and going right into a brogue. So Sheamus is the ones, and yes, it was another banger, and after we returned from a commercial break, we saw Sheamus fire himself up by slapping Kaiser several times and then right into the 10 beats of the Balor. And then he later hit a white noise, followed by a kneecap that stopped Kaiser from swinging the shillelagh right into Sheamus's injured ribs. So Sheamus picks up the win to stop a 2-match winning streak and go to 1-0. So Kaiser is the twos, and he went for his running drop kick early on, but this time it was only up against the barricade instead of against the steel steps, so I guess it didn't have quite the same impact. Later on, when it looked like he was in big trouble, he did indeed grab Sheamus's shillelagh, but he was unsuccessful in connecting. However, that would have been a DQ loss anyway, so probably for the best. And then he also could not land a reverse STO DDT, but he impressively shrugged off a kneecap and landed a rolling senton. But when he missed that jump kick, it was over for him, so he remains on quite a slide with his third straight loss and goes to 0-1 in 2025. And then after the match, Sheamus was celebrating with Pat McAfee at the announce table, but Braun Breaker was right there taking in the match, so he got up into Sheamus's face and Breaker pushed Sheamus. That is, of course, cause for a fine for Breaker, but it looks like those two are going to have one more title match and yet another shot at a Grand Slam title for Sheamus. And while I have to say this was not a match that we needed, but since it was yet another banger, we'll give it an okay. Up third, we just keep vulturing the power cells as, just like Adrian Toombs in Spider-Man Homecoming, Lyra Valkyria has stolen the goods from Damage Control by beating both Io Sky and now Dakota Kai in back-to-back matches to become the first ever women's Intercontinental Champion. So Lyra is the ones, and she landed a painful suplex from the apron down to the floor. That seemed like it took the wind out of the sails of both women for quite a few minutes, so it was probably a good idea. We went to a commercial break right then. And then later she reversed a go-to kick with a sit-out powerbomb and then had a roundhouse into a leg drop off of the top rope. And then speaking of phoenixes, wait a minute, who wrote that? I never once yet mentioned anything about a phoenix, so why are we bringing that up here? We know she said she was going to rise like a phoenix, and she did here because she rose from the ashes with a sling blade followed by a Nightwing to get the win and make more women's history as the first Women's Intercontinental Champion. And of course it took 3 matches to win this tournament, so she's won 3 in a row and goes to 1-0 in 2025. And Dakota is the twos, and she put in quite an effort here herself with a Dakota kick followed by a backstabber early on, and then later it looked like she had it won with a trifecta of moves and a scorpion kick followed by a stomp and then the GTK. But unfortunately for her, Lyra rolled out of the ring after the third of those moves, and then Dakota lost her momentum and the match to go to 0-1. Well, both women wanted this match so badly, so this was an appropriate end to the Women's Intercontinental title tournament, and I will just be your friendly neighborhood doc, so I'll give it an okay. In our fourth match, we just keep dropping your own bombs as Sami Zayn not once, but twice got dumped on with words, so he reversed course by going haluva kick into a Blue Thunder bomb to defeat The Miz. So Sami Zayn is the ones, and he had a rough night after Rollins pointed out that he was the one who had a rough night last week, when Rollins first pointed out that Reigns must be his boy, as Zayn helped him regain power by helping him out last week. And he also asked if he's going to keep helping Reigns or if he'll actually start to help himself. Then later on, The Miz pointed out that he is a 2-time champion, which is 2 times more than Sami will ever be. But I will admit this at least got Zayn in the mood to take out his aggressions on The Miz, and he stops an 0-4-1 skid to go to 1-0 in 2025. So The Miz is the twos, and he was able to stop a haluva kick with a boot of his own, then hit a kneeling DDT, and then later the It Kicks. But with Karrion Kross deciding not to come to ringside to help him out, this is Miz's 7th straight singles loss, and he starts the year at 0-1. Now, there was nothing particularly noteworthy about this slapped together match, so the match itself will get a double not okay. But for what Rollins and Miz had to say before the match, we'll give those 2 little interactions an okay. So that takes us to our main headline and main event of just keep stretchering out this feud as Damian Priest rolls Finn Balor down the ramp while he's in a stretcher before finally sending him south of heaven for good. So Priest is the ones, and he brought out a kendo stick and threw a bunch of chairs into the ring before it started, only for Balor to sneak up from behind him and use his own kendo stick several times before the bell was even rung. So that is a fine for Balor, and even though this is a street fight, we still have to wait for the bell to ring for the match to start. So for him, it's still a fine. And speaking of that, yet again, ref, what were you thinking? yet again, you just rang the bell while these two guys were fighting, and it was totally unfair for Damian Priest. We really need to have a talk with these refs to get that straightened out. Now, once the match started, it was literally all over the place as we went from one corner of the arena all the way to the opposite corner of the arena using kendos and steel chairs and trash cans, and Priest even chased Balor up the steps and then got him caught and landed a broken arrow through 2 tables on the floor below. Incredible stuff, and it went from incredible to weird as we immediately went to commercials. So what were you thinking? To the producers here, we had a really high probability that Priest was just going to pin Balor and end the match right there. Also, what were you thinking, Damian? Why didn't you just pin him there? He literally had to be placed onto a stretcher and then he was being rolled out of the arena. So clearly you should have just pinned him. But for some reason, he didn't do that. And also they just let the match continue. So what were you thinking? To Adam Pearce and the WWE officials. How can you stretcher someone out of the arena and have the match still keep going? Well, I guess that's what you do in a street fight because there was no pin or submission, but I don't know, maybe you want to call that a knockout and say that he just can't continue? Crazy. I don't know how you can do that. That seems like a bit of liability to the WWE there for letting this one continue. However, since the bell didn't ring, Priest did the right thing and he ran back up from the ring to the ramp and attacked both Carlito and McDonough while they were tending to their Judgment Day brother. So he went back to fighting Balor by throwing that stretcher right back down the ramp and getting Balor into the ring. So once Balor was in the ring, Priest landed a clothesline and lined up for a South of Heaven chokeslam, but Carlito recovered and he hit a backstabber on Priest, and McDonough followed that up with a moonsault, only for then Balor to arise and pull off his neck roll and hit a coup de grace. So you would think that would be it, but no, Priest kicked out of that. And so the War Raiders made an appearance and they took out both Carlito and McDonough, and it again made this a one-on-one match. But at this point, apparently Balor was just fine as he grabbed a chair and hit Priest several times with it before putting it over Priest's head. And as he went for a drop kick that might just have ended Priest, well, Priest was able to rise and stop that drop kick and turn it into a South of Heaven chokeslam. But I can't even believe it, but Balor somehow kicked out of that, which is pretty impressive for a guy that was just about ready to go to the hospital. So good for him. And then Balor continued that with a coup de grace through a table, and admittedly the apron was only about 6 inches above the table, so that might not have been the most impactful coup de grace of all time. So Priest recovered quickly from that to crash both of them through the barricade, then hit a razor's edge through another table, and then finally finished him off with a South of Heaven. So Priest, in the end, did what he does best, and that is go 4-0 against all of the matches against Balor, and he only lost 1 match against any Judgment Day member. Though I will note that they both lost to Gunther at Saturday night's main event in a triple threat match for the title. So Balor is the twos, and we'll have to give him credit for his unreal recovery from the stretcher to almost winning the match. But in the end, it was the same result as usual, but I think it's time for him to wave the white flag as he drops his 7th straight singles match and starts the year at 0-1. I will again note that there are no STFs here once the bell rung, as everything was legal, and while there were way too many WWYTs everywhere, it was still a lot of fun, so we'll give it an okay. And for that, let's go beyond the mat for Raw with CM Punk starting the show, and he said that he sees Cena and always has, so he too will be declaring for the Royal Rumble, which of course meant Seth Rollins was going to come on out from the back with his black eye and said that he would show up no matter what this week, so that's exactly what he did, saying that the worst version of himself is better than the best version of CM Punk. But he also admitted that he thought this was the worst loss of his career, and so the only thing left for him to do is to take Punk's dream away from him, so he too is declared for the Royal Rumble, only for then Drew McIntyre to also interrupt both of them, and he called Rollins pathetic and refuses to fight the other two after they both were ready to throw some hands. And he also said that Roman Reigns is playing a game of chess while the others are playing checkers, so McIntyre will have to step it up himself, so he also declared for the Rumble to stop Reigns. So later, Kathy Kelly caught up to Rollins, saying that Rollins versus McIntyre was official for next week, and Rollins says that he is looking forward to it. And since we're also looking forward to how the Royal Rumble is shaping up, we'll give all of this an okay. Finn Balor told Liv Morgan that he was sure that she would be champion again real soon, but yeah, he was not very convincing when he said that. And also not very convincing was after Dom brought flowers for Liv. Liv said that she was not mad. But then she gave Dom about 5 more things that he had to do that evening, so I think she just might be a little bit mad. Now here I thought that Dom was just trying to fake out Rhea last week, but I guess Liv does not think so. But we'll see how this lovers' quarrel plays out and give it an okay. After missing last week's debut, Gunther said that he was not impressed with the in-ring action that he saw last week, and said that the championship was the only thing worth fighting over, to which Jey Uso came out and challenged Gunther to a title shot at Saturday night's main event. And Gunther said that he admired Jey's courage, but was naive to think that he's the guy that can beat him, saying that we've seen this twice before with Jey trying and failing to beat Gunther for the IC title. And he said that Jey is just a talented tag team wrestler, but he ended up being fine with Jey's challenge and said the choice was Jey's, and so Jey said that he is betting on himself and is still trying to earn respect, so he said this fight is on, and this will get an okay. Rhea Ripley got to celebrate her championship victory by saying Mommy is back on top, but then Nia Jax came out of the back and said she was only here to discuss the transfer window, but when she heard Rhea, she had to come out to say that she will win the Royal Rumble and take whatever title she wants. Nia also then saw Bayley sitting in the crowd and said she's not sure why she's here, but she of course antagonized Bayley and made her jump the barricade. So once all 3 women were in the ring, Nia pushed Bayley and then pushed Rhea, so Nia will get a fine. However, she's the one that paid for it, with both Bayley and Rhea taking a couple shots to knock Nia out of the ring. But random people from the other show is getting a little bit old, so this gets a double not okay. And I am so over this nonsensical transfer window. WWE can never do these things correctly. My trades were so much better, so be sure to go back and check out that prior video. And on top of that, just like tonight, we saw Karrion Kross break the news by telling The Miz that the Wyatt Six were officially transferred to SmackDown. So, wow, pathetic. They couldn't say anything themselves. Adam Pearce couldn't say anything. Nick Aldis couldn't say anything. I think it's time that you just hire me as the GM so we can fix all of these problems. But for now, let's just please close this transfer window. It's a complete disaster. Double not okay. Well, what this one lacked in star power from last week made up for with an awesome debut, a first ever women's IC champion, and several Rumble declarations. But if you missed my declarations with all of the grades from SmackDown, be sure to go right on over here to check those out. And if you do, like this show, I will declare it okay.